Some of our favorite words these days, recording in progress. And getting over to Facebook Live so we can get into the September edition of Coffee with Cathy. So excited to be here with you guys and to share what's happening in Kaiser. And I just went to the wrong page. I'm really excited about that. I might have to back this one up. Okay, Coffee with Cathy is on the air and recording for all of you to watch later. So welcome to the September edition of Coffee with Cathy. I am Cathy Clark, the mayor of the city of Kaiser. Here with me today is Jeremy Turner, the president of the board for the Kaiser Chamber of Commerce, Betty Hart from the Kaiser Fire District and Kaiser Community Library, and Diane Watson from the Chemeketa Community College Board of Education. We've got a lot of good stuff to share with you today. I'm just going to jump right in and share my screen with some of the things that are happening around our community. And of course, for those of you who are watching on Facebook, please go ahead and let us know what you've got and what you're interested in hearing about so we can share even more with you. So I'm going to see if I can share the proper screen. And let's see if the right one came up. Yes, it did. All right. So welcome to Coffee with Cathy. We've got our coffee nice and warm on this cool September morning, and we're excited to share what's happening around town. And today is McNary Band Day. You're going to see our student musicians all around town. And if you have cans that you would love to get rid of, they'd like to take care of them for you. So take them over to McNary High School. They've got a whole system set up to receive your cans. Cash donations, very happily accepted. We have done a great job historically supporting our McNary student musicians, and you can keep that going today on Band Day. Also, you can fill out the form online for them to come and pick up your cans in a bag around town. So it is Band Day, open till 5 today. Also today is Forge Fest. This is a wonderful event. It's going to be the first, and it won't be, this will be the first annual, is the hope that this is an organization that does forging and blacksmithing as a means of providing support for our veterans. Josh Navarrete, who was a Forged in Fire contestant, is a Kaiser Salem area resident, and he's got a great program called IACT. Come and learn more about that. And if you want to meet some of his other friends from Forged in Fire, come out to Acres of Hope Youth Ranch today, and you will be able to see the different competitions this afternoon, and especially the competition between Salem Kaiser PD fire departments and districts and Polk and Marion County Fire Sheriff's Departments. So they will compete for bragging rights, and also it'll be a lot of fun out there today at Forge Fest. Kaiser is all about pride, spirit, and volunteerism, and volunteerism is nothing without you. So if you would like to get involved, please go on our website, fill out a volunteer application for what you're interested in doing, from budget to planning to parks and so much more. Also, if you have a youth member, a high school student, we are still recruiting positions of youth liaisons for this school year. It's a fantastic opportunity for students to be able to get involved in our committees as well as our city council. We do have a city councilor for this year, a youth counselor, but we have other positions available. So apply today. Want to thank everybody who's been coming out this summer for Trashy Tuesdays. We have one more event coming up, that's on October 21st at Wallace House Park. These have been a lot of fun for volunteers of all ages to come out and pick up trash. This last week, they were at Kaiser Rapids Park and picked up almost 20 pounds of trash that will be properly disposed of. It's also a great way to learn about our rivers and streams right around the Kaiser area. And this cow is reminding you to move along and get your art turned in for our utility boxes. We have several of them done, and we have a call to artists that is now out in the community. So if you would like to design a one of our utility boxes, please go to our website and click on the requirements for that and get your art submission turned in today. Want to remind everybody that this is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And as part of that presentation, we got a presentation from Be Smart that reminds folks to make sure all of firearms and other weapons are properly stored, and that you have great education, especially for our kids, to know what to do when they see a firearm or other weapon, to make sure they're properly put away and stored so we can prevent accidental death. But also, there are statistics showing that if we properly store firearms and other weapons, that breaks that OODA loop, that mental process that people go through when they are considering to act on their intents for self-harm, and that can break that plan and get them thinking about other things and reach out for help. 988, that is where you call. Get help 24 hours a day. Be smart and stay with us because you matter. Also want to give a shout out for our Salem Kaiser Safe Routes to School. Our program coordinator, Beth Schmidt, was received an award for the work that she and her team have done. So this was an award from the Street Trust. We have a huge staff of 3 for our entire school district, and they do countless programs, educational activities, so kids and families know how to travel safely from home to school and anywhere else they travel in our community. So congratulations to Beth Schmidt, and thank you to her and her team for all they're doing. Now that school started, please be careful as you are traveling around the community, and especially during the school hours before and after school, that our kids are out there traveling. Summer's over, slow down, be aware, hang up to drive and walk and bike safely. And so that is all I have for what's happening around the city. Jeremy, I've got you queued up next.
All right. So we have the co-starters up. We are in the final classes of co-starters, and just to remind everybody, co-starters is kind of that the 1 to 3 year range that they are that businesses are have started. It is an opportunity for business owners to work on their business and not just in their business. Many people have, gone away from working for somebody and started their own. And sometimes they just need a little bit extra help and guidance on different ways to manage their business and make it run more efficiently. Hoping that they can, have people working for them, and so they're not having to be out in the field as much. And what we've found is that this is a great Kickstarter type business education that our cohort can then transition over to what the SBDC is doing to for the SBM, the Small Business Management Program, which is designed for people that have been in business for 5 years or more, and have a little bit more of a stable operation. So this is a great way to just kind of partner with Chemeketa and the SBDC program to make sure that businesses are being taken care of in the community.
Oh,
Yep,
greeters.
we have Kaiser Homegrown Theaters is hosting greeters next Tuesday. It's going to be at the Heritage Center. I'm sure they'll have a lot of opportunity to tell us about just the different plays that they've plan on doing, and what their goals are to continue to grow the organization. We've been seeing anywhere between 60 and 70 people attend our greeters each week, and it does continue to grow as we share with different businesses in the community.
Let me go on to the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. McNary Golf. I can't even remember the last time McNary Golf Club hosted a greeters. But I know that they have a new general manager. They've made some changes. They've been a great partner of ours for our luncheons, our lunch and learns, and so we're looking forward to seeing what they have to offer as well. Yeah, the next no event book exchange. I'm not too familiar. Maybe Cathy, if you were at the last meeting, if they told you what this was going to be, but I'm sure it's just sharing different book ideas. I'm not involved in it. They don't let me go to lunch there. So uh yeah, I don't have any other information on the book exchange itself.
Well, I'd really love to share with women in business. You can come as a guest, and when your business joins, to become a member of the Kaiser Network of Women. It is a fantastic program where women leaders are able to share information, ideas, encouragement, expertise on business and work-life balance, wellness, and so forth. So this is going to be another program that's designed to help equip and encourage women businesses and women led businesses. So sign up for that. It's $25 if you want lunch. It's free to attend if you're a chamber member, and come and share because colder weather's coming. You need good books to read. I've got a few by my nightstand, but I'm still working on. But bring your favorites. Back to you,
Chamber,
Jeremy.
yeah, Chamber 101. So we had this in the past. We had not had a coordinator for it for a while. The chamber, one of the biggest initiatives that I had is, just really helping our businesses understand their benefits, and making sure that all of their benefits are being utilized throughout the year. So we have created a couple different processes for our new ambassador program and our office staff and our board members to reach out to members throughout the year. So those um, um, members have an opportunity to, maximize their membership as you see here. So this is going to be the first of once a quarter, I think, uh, Chamber 101 sessions where just coming in and learning about all the things that you have an opportunity to do. We are hearing from people that, I'm not able to make Tuesday morning meetings. Well, we want to make sure that they understand there's more to the chamber than just the Tuesday morning greeters. And that's one of the reasons why we're hosting it at 7:30 to 8:30 and also from 4:30 to 5:30 so that businesses and business owners and people have opportunity to work within their schedule.
So that's what I had from Chamber. Before I go on to Shemeketa, anything else that you'd like people to know about, Jeremy, that's happening at the Chamber?
Yeah, so one of the big things that we're doing right now, and if you haven't had an opportunity to go into the chamber office, we have changed up the look inside of it. So we've moved some things around um, to just open up the space and make sure that it's more accommodating to the tourism side of things. So when you first walk in, the tourism area is going to be in that front corner when you first walk in. You don't have to go around the corner to find information. And then, we're just there's still some things we need to find places for. So, pardon a little bit of mess, but it's much more open now. Um, the biggest thing that we're trying to do is really the business advocacy side of things and helping businesses where they're at, and growing our membership. And so we appreciate the support that we've had from the community and our members. They see the goals that we have put into place, and they're feeling that they are being heard more. And so we're really happy with the way that we're um taking care of our members right now. So, the things that people don't see behind the scenes, they're getting done. I promise you that. And so, like right now, I just had another meeting last week about all things holiday. So we have the parade coming up. We have the gift basket program. Had a fantastic meeting with our foundation. We are reaching out to the CSOCs at each of the schools to start collecting names of our our youth in the community that need a little bit of support, and the families that and then their families at home. So between the Elks Lodge, ourselves, we are really wanting to make our Give Basket program be a community event. We are going to be changing the delivery dates. It's no longer going to be the same morning of the parade. We're pushing it out a week. Um, uh, which is fine. We just would need to make sure that we're communicating that with all the everybody. We're also bringing back, not bringing back. We've always had the communities, but we're really opening up our committees to the community as well. It's not the chamber's job, or it shouldn't be the chamber's sole responsibility to run all of the events that we have in the past. We want to make everything more community focused. So we are going to be putting a message out to people to help with our Percy event, to raise money, the parades, the golf tournaments, those types of things. We just want to make sure that we just get back to, our volunteerism side of things within the community, and we can be the conveners because we have the office staff to help do it. But we want to make sure that we're supporting everybody in the community.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I just put into the Facebook comments to remind everybody that yes, this is mid-September, and if anybody thinks the holidays are so far away, wrong. They
Yeah.
are staring us in the face. So advanced planning is fantastic. If you are going to do an event and you need a permit, get that down to the city as soon as possible. And also get it out to our community. As Jeremy was pointing out, it's all about our partnerships and collaboration. And it's because we all work together and communicate that we can make our events coordinate and be successful, and truly a community-wide celebration, and also taking care of one another. And I know the fire district will be making their plans for their activities as well, but you've got something coming up sooner. But right now I'm going to shift over to Chemeketa and to Diane Watson from the Chemeketa Board of Education, and I will share your slides.
Thank you, Kathy. It's always a pleasure to be here and to share information about Chemeketa. And I thought I would give you just a little overview of some things that are happening on campus and some tidbits from the summer. Um, First of all, summer term went very, very well. We were up over 15%. And then the fall enrollment numbers, we don't have them yet, and we won't till probably November. But we see a real strong enrollment, and especially in our career and technical education programs. And that doesn't surprise me because there are many programs that are very helpful and needed by our community. This is the third year of offering our applied baccalaureate in leadership and management. Um, and we have strong enrollment in that. We have 35 new students coming in to earn their bachelor's degrees. And these are students who already have an associate degree in an applied science field. And they have the 2-year degree like electronics and welding and auto mechanics and computer science and so forth. And they want to move up in their business or industry, and they need a bachelor's degree. And so this is just a great one. We had our first graduating cohort this summer, and it was great. And then we have the largest cohort ever of Chemeketa scholars, not Chemeketa, yeah, of the Chemeketa Scholars Program. Nearly 700 students applied to this program, and they are really good students. They have a 3.5 GPA or better. They passed our placement test. They've met some other criteria, and they're in the program. And more than 420 of these students who have applied to Chemeketa have already registered. And so that's great. We have a strong group, and this helps McNary High School and all the high schools in our district that they can apply with that type of GPA and get a full ride scholarship for 2 years. And so as long as they keep their GPA, they can keep the scholarship. If you're wondering, you wanted to go into something you don't quite know yet, you want to change jobs, or you're a graduating student and you don't know what you're interested in, we have a career coach program, Chemeketa Career Coach. And you can go into there. It's absolutely free. Just Google it, and you can go into it, take an interest inventory. It'll give you a positive idea of what fields you're interested in, and then you can do research on those fields, which will help you narrow things down. So you might take advantage of that if you're just kind of lost and you don't know what you want to do, or there might be a surprise out there. Maybe your interests are something different than you thought. So it's Shemeketa Career Coach. And one of the other things that we want to do is again take an opportunity to thank our community for the support of our bond, which passed in May. Um, we are just delighted that you invested in us and uh, thought that we would return on that investment, and we are certainly fiscally sound and frugal in whatever we do. Um, Then fall term starts this Monday. I wrote down the 29th. It's not the 29th, it's the 22nd. It was a typo there. And everybody's excited. Our faculty are back. We had our kickoff. There's a lot of energy there, and we want to get started and serve you. So let's go through one of the programs that's going to be affected by the bond, our apprenticeship program. Uh, I love apprenticeships, and I love apprenticeships for a number of reasons. One is you get paid when you're going to school. And then in 2 or 4 years, you come out with your associate's degree, and you're already working for somebody, so you have a job. And the salary is on some of them is incredible. So um, I want to go through this. And one of the things we have is a pre-apprenticeship programs. And this is for, high school students as well as adults in the community. We work closely with CTech for our pre-apprenticeship program. We've had over 100 students in that. And then if you're outside of the district, like for example, Silverton, we have a pre-apprenticeship program there, which gives you kind of the nuts and bolts, some basic skills, and gets you ready to apply for an apprenticeship and tells you how. And so that's a great program, a great first step, and it gives you an opportunity to explore some different fields. One of the things that we have offered is an electrician apprenticeship. The inside electrician is 4 years. Um, you can get paid at the very beginning $18 to $22 an hour. So you're working full time and you take classes at night. And when you're all done with it, the average salary is $40 to $46 an hour. And so people are making $85 to $96,000 a year. So annual salary. That's pretty good. And yeah, I put that up against a lot of other programs. And then they have the limited residential, which is a 2-year program. We have HABAC, high heating, air conditioning. Um, and the salary is a little different on that. I think the average salary is about $35 an hour, but you can make more than that. And certainly if you started your own business, you might make a whole lot of money. Iron worker, limited energy technician. This is a new grant funded program that came in, and this is working with solar. Uh, so uh, we'll know more about that in the future. And then sheet metal, roofing and gutters and ventilation and things like that. So that's another field. Um, one of our opportunities and challenges, which is the next slide, um, opportunities is that there's increased exposure and demand for the skilled trades. So this is a good area to go into. And we've had some grants and funding to offer these. One of the challenges we have right now is limited space. Literally, our apprenticeships are on workers in the evening at the class when they're taking their classes. They're on top of each other. I mean, it is very small, and that's one of the things the bond is going to be for, is a new building for apprenticeship, so that our folks can get their education in space that's adequate. Um, and this is really exciting because I see this program also expanding, and this will give an opportunity to better serve our community. And you can see here the last slide I have is the department FTE. And the little orange line is last year. And you can see under electrician, if you look up at that orange line, we are just growing so fast in that field. There's such a demand for it. And anyway, it's exciting. Let's move on because I have a couple more really exciting things to talk about. We have our student body president, Lillian Anderson, was selected for the 2025-26 Newman Civic Fellowship by Campus Compact. She's a second-year student. She was a returning associate student of Chemeketa president, and she's really been recognized for the good work that she's done here. Through her leadership, Anderson has advanced initiatives that confront basic needs insecurity, strengthen student connections to an off-campus resources, and expand civic engagement opportunities. And over the past year, she has advocated to the Oregon State Capitol for increased student resources, facilitated a college-wide vote on the public measure, and organized meaningful engagement opportunities that reflect student priorities. So this is one of the stars at Chemeketa, and I'm sure that she's going to be somebody you're going to hear about in the future in government service as she continues her education and training and responsibilities for this new position. And then we had something else. This is Ken Hector. I've known Ken for years, and maybe some of you have. He was mayor, I think, for 16, 17 years at the city of Silverton. And he's been on the board for 12 years as both chair and vice chair. And last year he was chair. And he really went out to help do some wonderful things for Chemeketa. Our president said, Ken Hector exemplifies what it means to be a public servant and a community college advocate. And his leadership on our board has a commitment to students and passionate work to expand educational opportunities in Oregon and beyond, and has left a lasting impact. We are honored to see his service recognized on a national stage. And what he received was the 2025 Pacific Regional Trustee Leadership Award. This includes California. So it's pretty significant when you figure out the number of board members that were competing for this. And he will go to New Orleans, and there he could possibly, there's 7 different areas. So there are 7 people who received this award from different regions of the country. But he's also, his name is in the hat for the national one possibly. So we're just so proud of him. And I thought I just wanted to recognize Ken Hector. And then let's go to the last one. This I just threw in here because I thought it was fun. Chemeketa Press is at Harvard Bookstore. And what is in the book? What is that book in the window of the Harvard Bookstore? An independently owned bookshop located just across the street from the Harvard University campus in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's Nowhere Lands, Exploring Utopia and Dystopian Voices, an anthology published by Chemeketa Press. So it's from Chemeketa, our press, and edited by our English instructor, Carl Miner. Anyway, I thought that was pretty clever that Chemeketa has a book in Harvard Bookstore. So maybe that's where we're headed for. Anyway, I want to thank you and tell you that next week is classes begin on Monday. Don't wait a week. It's not the 29th, it's the 22nd. And we're really excited about fall quarter and what it can bring. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diane. Really appreciate you always keeping us up to date on Chemeketa and what's happening and the opportunities that Chemeketa offers for students in Kaiser and our 3-county Marion Polk Yamhill County region. You guys just keep leading the way and showing how it's done. So Betty, I'm going to switch over to Kaiser Fire. And I want just a big thank you to Kaiser Fire and the Elks for remembering 9/11. Start off with that, and cherry pick some stuff off your page.
Yes, great. Yes, I want to say congratulations to Ken Hector too, because I helped with the bond measure and he was all over the place, really trying
He
to promote
was.
that. So I'm not surprised that, yeah. Anyway, so that's super. All right. Yes, we did 9/11. We've been doing a 9/11 remembrance. In the last few years, it's been kind of a small ceremony, and we were interested in working with another organization, and the Elks has turned out to be a perfect partner for this. It was a wonderful event, quite short, and we had all. I don't know if all of our fire trucks were there, but a lot of our fire trucks were there, and a lot of our fire staff in uniform that morning. And it was a great opportunity for us to participate in the remembrance ceremony without the work that's involved. We did put our little flags out that day to represent the various firefighters that had been killed in that event. So we're looking forward to continuing that partnership with the Kaiser Elks. And remember, it's always on September 11th. So that should be easy. And at 8:30, which almost a halfway decent time of the morning to do it. So that was great fun. All right, what else do you have there? I've got a couple of things I want to talk about, but if you've got, oh yes, there's our flags. Oh, this is probably one of the biggest events we have all year. Well, maybe pancakes are bigger, but we have our open house and safety fair on October 6th from 6 to 8 p.m. And it is always a fun event, and there's lots to learn, lots of information and resources. And of course, there's swag. So you have an opportunity to pick up stuff from the various vendors who are there. I don't think we've had this before, but Sublimity Fire will have their comfort dogs there. And I'm really looking forward to that. I think you're having the worst day of your life, and there's a comfort dog for you to sort of help with that trauma that you're. So I'm really excited to see that. And interestingly enough, Friends of Felines are going to be there. So if you need a cat, I'm sure you can make a connection. Anyway, Salem, yeah, Salem Electric will have their electricity safety demonstration. They're always there. The Marine Board and ODOT will be there. And a number of other organizations, the Red Cross, the neighborhood associations, the Early Learning Hub, and of course, Kaiser Library will be there also. And kids get to try being a firefighter, trying to get out of the building when they can't see, and holding a fire hose, and touring a fire truck and an ambulance. So it's really both educational and fun. So I'm looking forward to that. One of my favorite events of the year. Is that all you have for pictures, Cathy?
This is going what I have here is the your calls for service. You posted it
Yes.
on your Facebook page, which I think is really helpful for folks to know.
Yes, it is. And so 4,600 calls through August. So the demand for service just continues to grow, as you can imagine, particularly as our population ages. And of course, we do fire and emergency medical services, and probably not too many cat in the tree things anymore, but there are other kinds of things like that where we end up helping the community. And so it is, we've created a partnership with both Marion County Fire and the city of Salem so that whoever has the closest available equipment and manpower responds to a call. So especially if you live in the south end of Kaiser, you might find um, a city of Salem truck showing up for your emergency. And likewise, Kaiser Fire has shown up for a few things that have occurred in either Salem and or Marion County Fire District. So we're really pleased. It's practically seamless. The dispatch is aware of that. And in the past, Salem, for instance, might bring a fire truck from South Salem to a North Salem event before they called Kaiser. And so I think it's so wonderful that the three fire chiefs are working closely together to provide the best service, most efficient service possible to all of the people within the three jurisdictions. And we're looking for other ways to work together, joint training and all of that. And it makes it possible for us to respond to our calls with the resources that we have. But these are the number of calls that Kaiser Fire actually responded to. So pretty good number there. Okay.
Yeah, and I also want to give a shout out to you as a board president, but also the board for Marion County Fire One and the city of Salem, all with leadership that is determined to work together and get to yes. So congratulations and thank you to the three chiefs and the three governing bodies that have this mindset of making the emergency services to our community your top priority.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. And I'm so fortunate to have this opportunity to serve with the Kaiser Fire District and make the contribution that I can to helping them be successful. So I'm pleased for that. And
I want to give a shout out right now because Kaiser Fire, along with Marion County Fire One, Salem, and so many others, we're out in Independence on the 18th for the Wall That Heals. This is a little bit of information from their opening day. I thought I had a slide for the entire 3 days that it's going to be there, but it's over in Independence, and it's the replica of the Vietnam Memorial Wall. This is the traveling display, and really encourage people to go out to Independence to go and see that. I think it's today and tomorrow is still going to be there, and go and experience the Vietnam Memorial Wall, the wall that heals. Thank you for being part of the welcome.
Yeah, that's great. Yes. I'm sorry I didn't get to see all of that. Well, let me just say a couple more things about the fire district. So I've already mentioned we're continuing to work with the two agencies, and we're going to start working on doing some goal setting and long range planning. And as we need to look forward, it's been quite a long time, I think, since the fire board has done that. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, I'm ready to talk about the library.
Well, before we go library, let's talk about some of the organizations that are in the same building. So the Kaiser Heritage, the Cultural Center has a lot going on. So I just went and cherry picked some things off their pages. So want to run those by everybody so you all know what's happening. And what I love is that the fact that we have such great collaboration across all of the groups that are in the Cultural Center. As an example, we have the Kaiser Arts Association. They have classes that are happening. Some of them are ongoing, sometimes one-time workshops. As an example, the fall squash watercolor. So just great opportunities to learn from wonderful artists. And if you have a group that would like to do an art class, get a hold of the kaiserarts.com and see about having your group do a class at the Kaiser Arts Association. This is also a drop-in, and this is a collaboration between the Kaiser Arts Association and Kaiser Homegrown Theater, where you can learn about costuming and cosplay from Lorianne Schmidt. And boy, that seems like it's right in time for Halloween. So that's going to be on Tuesday, October 7th. Here I am down at the newly refurbished Kaiser Heritage Museum, which is absolutely fabulous. This is just one of several displays that are now updated and interactive. Those are beaver mittens that you can actually put on. They're quite warm. And there's other displays that you can touch and experience about the fur trapping trade that was very prevalent here. Also learn about Wallace House, which was a fur trading outpost. And then around the corner, there are even more displays that you can go and experience at the Kaiser Heritage Museum. Great shout out to everybody involved with reimagining and recreating our museum to tell the story of Kaiser and our surrounding area. Upstairs, you'll see at the Kaiser Homegrown Theater, The Lion in Winter is coming in November. If you haven't seen the movie, read the play, seen it on stage, this is a must-see. It's one of my favorite shows. So come and see Lion in Winter in November. So here's some library stuff. Betty, take it away.
Yes. So on Friday the 26th of September from 6 to 7:30 at the library, we have, excuse me, a local author, Mitzaline Gonzalez, talking about her book, Dino Migrante. So it's a great opportunity for people to learn more and to hear someone who actually writes in Spanish as well as English. And so I hope we have a good turnout. We've had great activities, events for families, particularly Latino families, and they have really enjoyed coming to the library. And so, yes, in fact, every Saturday at 10:30 is reading in Spanish for the whole family. Yes, a big deal.
Let's
The,
go back to
the
this.
book sale. Yes, put this on your calendar. Cathy, I hope you will share this with the network of women, because if whatever books they exchange at the beginning of October, they'll need another book or two by the weekend of so it's Friday and Saturday from 9 to 5 on Friday, 9 to 4 on Saturday. Books, hardbacks are only $1 and paperbacks are only 50 cents. The last hour on Saturday, you can buy a whole shopping bag full of books for $5. And if people have a little library that they use to share with their neighbors, they can get a bag of books for free to use in their library, in their little library for their neighbors and people who come there. And so this is always a great event, and it will be it's always fun to see all the people kind of roaming around, looking at all the books. You'd think it was the library itself because it's so quiet, but anyway, and so yes, we hope a lot of people will come because we usually have a lot of books. Anyway,
And if you want to donate, just drop it into the book return or take it down to the library during open hours.
right.
Donations, if you are doing a garage sale and you wonder where to take those books or those DVDs that you're not sure what to do with, take them to the library. They will help offer more selection for our customers at the book sale. So
Yes.
I've been talking to people doing garage sales going, so at the end, would you like to donate those? And
well,
by the end of
it's
Saturday, they're happy to.
Yeah, we about 90% of our books at the library itself have been donated. And so somebody goes through the books we get in donations, picks out ones that would be worthwhile to have in the library itself, and swaps out some of the library because we do have limited space that haven't been very popular, and then whatever, which is usually not very many, but the rest of them go towards a book sale, and we do the book sale twice a year in October and then again in the spring. So we see it as a real service to the community, as well as a way to get rid of all the books that we get donated and provide a little income. Oh, this is such a great deal. I'm going to go over today and meet the dog. So kids can sign up to read to the dog in 15-minute increments. And the dog is going to be there today from 11, I think, to 12:30. And I think it's going to be a couple of weeks after that before the dog will be back. This is a service dog. It's actually owned by Jane Downing, who used to work at the Women's Center for Hope and Safety. And so it's been great that she has been willing to bring her dog to the library for kids to read to. And apparently it's just a great event. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, okay, preschool story time, Wednesdays at 10:30 in English, and then Saturdays at 10:30, really for the whole family on Saturday. So those are wonderful ways to help kids get, appreciation of reading and how important that is. So yes.
To keep that going, we've got to make sure that Kaiser is #1 in reading. We're very competitive with everything else, and I think it's time that our literacy hits a very high level and lead the way. So it's all about them books, about them books, about them books.
Yes. And of course, we are in the process of hiring a part-time staff person who coordinate the volunteers, who provide, staff the desk. And our last staff person, Elizabeth, did such a super job. We were really sorry to see her go, but she was ready for a full-time job after going to school this last year. So we hope to have somebody up and running before too long. We got really a lot of applications. And so that is going to be, I'm looking forward to that. And
Wonderful.
Yes. And involvement from the community at the library in terms of patronage and checking out books and all of that continues to go up all the time. So we're really pleased with the community response. We want to be the best library we can be with the resources we have available. And thank you to all of the volunteers that we have for the library, because we couldn't do it without them.
Well, that's a lot of news today from Kaiser, and I just want to wrap it up. Want to note that the Facebook live stream didn't work properly today, so that was operator error, me. But the Zoom post will go on live, and also this broadcast is always posted on the City of Kaiser YouTube page. So please share the link, share the information, and above all, share the good news about what's happening in Kaiser with all of your neighbors. And we know that Kaiser shows up. Speaking of people who Kaiser shows up, a huge thank you to my friends Jeremy Turner from the Kaiser Chamber of Commerce, Betty Hart from the Kaiser Fire District and Kaiser Library, and Diane Watson from Chemeketa Community College. Pastor Jose Dominguez sends his regards, and he'll be back with us next month. So have a great day, everybody. Be safe out there and take care of one another the way Kaiser does. And thank you for joining us on the September edition of Coffee with Cathy.